Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's got Star Trek. Episode 85, Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 10, The Magnificent Ferengi.
You know, brother, I've been thinking. We can't rescue Mookie from a Dominion internment center. Not alone, anyway.
You're right. We'll need help.
We could put together a commando team. Gather the toughest mercenaries we can find. Nausicaans, Breen, Klingons.
Shh. We don't need Nausicaans, Breen, or Klingon.
Humans?
We'll just use Ferengi.
Then we'll all die!
No, we won't. Ferengi can be just as tough as Klingons.
They can?
Of course they can. They just need the opportunity, the training, and a couple of bars of Latinum as incentive.
Coming out of my share, I suppose.
No. We'll split the reward with whoever joins us. All 20 bars of it.
But the Negus offered 50.
As far as anyone else is concerned, you said 20.
20 it is then.
Dan, it's
got Star Trek.
It's your week to start the podcast.
Isn't it cute how in the opening sequence there's like there's all those ships docked and the one was Defiant. Is Defiant always Defiant was shown to be docked? I think as a plot point.
It's always there. It's always there.
It's always there.
Yeah,
because it seemed they
redid the opening credits in season 4.
It seems like they wouldn't change it for that. Although some shows have changed their opening credits slightly depending, but like.
I like it when they're the other star base and there's a bunch of like Federation ships all chilling.
Oh yeah, there was that other one, right?
Proper Federation star.
Yeah,
base.
that was cool. There was all those ships everywhere. I was thinking about the Defiant. I was like, is this docked because of like that's the thing? But it could also have been a plot point, even though it wasn't. But because Bashir and O'Brien just came back on the Defiant from behind enemy lines.
Yeah,
all right,
that was bad.
So you have to introduce the podcast.
Oh, well, I thought you just wanted me to give a segue.
Yeah,
it's got podcast.
I mean, you don't have a segue from nothing. You got to start with the introduction and then segue into the content.
This is our podcast.
I've never introduced the podcast before.
This is the week you're going to.
My name is Jesse.
All right, we got Jesse over here. I'm Patrick, and the person leading the show here, who's going to say the name. You're going to say the name of the podcast.
You're on.
Your name is Dan.
My name's Dan, and this is the Is Got Star Trek. Shit.
Your name is Dan.
It's Got Star Trek.
Yes.
Radio show podcast.
Good. And what episode are we discussing this week?
We're recording episode number 89 today.
No.
I think you skipped some.
It's 85, I believe. 85.
Well, we're discussing The Magnificent Ferengi, which is season 6, episode 10 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Excellent. I'm excited to do that, too.
Yeah.
I like this
From
episode.
1997.
I like this episode. Yeah. December 17th, 1997.
Both times
December 17th.
Both times I watched it, the episode felt like it just kind of flew by. You know.
Yes, it feels like a short episode.
It's a lighter, has a light feel to it.
It has a light feel, and basically it's just taking your standard like.
It's like when you get the cream at the store, and there's like some cream that goes on thick, but then there's some cream that goes on lighter.
Yeah, I guess that's one comparison you can make.
Yeah.
What I was saying is
I'll save the others for later.
It was basically your standard kind of episode where I've got a hostage, you've got a hostage, let's make a trade. Except how would Ferengis handle it? Because
there's like the getting the crew together kind of sequence.
Yeah, so right, exactly, which is kind of like a heist scenario.
Yeah, it's like
so it seems short, I think, which was cool because the time passed, but it also represented about how little they got to go into anything. And I don't think but that's kind of the point though, is they didn't really need to go into everything. Right. They just shoved all the story beats together, basically. And we're not supposed to really, you have all your standard beats that happen, and then the people are the Ferengi. It's just like, how would the Ferengi handle this scenario? And so that's part of the reason it goes by is because everything is squished. So would it be better as a two-parter? Probably not, but it would give them some time to go a little deeper. But at the same time, they didn't really need to because it's just a fun. It's just watching. It's fun to watch. Yeah. It's an excuse to watch Ferengi like get together and cooperate and inevitably bumble around. Yeah, exactly.
Because they're all kind of like reluctant and they have to be convinced. Like it's not like like the stereotypical heist janks is all like, I'm in, and like the Ferengis are all like, well, wait a minute, what am I gonna get at it? It's like, well, we're gonna make some money. It's like, oh, okay, well, sure, I'll make some money. Or the one guy that doesn't like to make money, he just likes to kill people.
He like to kill people in creative ways.
He's a weird Ferengi that just goes around killing people, so he's not typically into
That's
just
Lek, right?
profit.
Yeah,
Lek, the eliminator.
Yeah,
What's an eliminator?
he just did it for a challenge, which is kind of like similar to Klingon honor, except probably like a little bit. Not to say that he's does honorable stuff, but like it's that similar idea of like I just want the respect of knowing I can do some awesome shit, which is honorable.
He's got the money. He's one of those people that probably he gets plenty of money from his eliminator job, and so he's not really worried about paying the bills. And I mean, you could argue he's a philosophically elevated Ferengi, even though he's just using his spare time from since he's not as greedy in that sense. He's greedy for just murdering people in clever and mischievous ways.
Yeah, did he really need to ruin Quark's bar wall with that knife when he threw it at, what was it, Liquidator Brunt was like, well, I guess you don't want to have my ship then. And he walks away and he's like, ship you say? Or whatever. Like, he could have just said, hey, come back here.
I know, right?
Like, why did he have to throw the knife for effect, but like, that's a real fucking dent in Quark's wall. You'd think Quark would at least be like, hey, man, chill out with that shit.
I think you can get the Bajoran guys to come around and fix your holes. In
Yeah, maybe that's
Can you rub the holes a little bit until you can't see them as much? The title, The Magnificent Ferengi, clearly is an homage to the Magnificent Seven, which is itself, that's a John Sturges movie, I think, 1960. And then that's a remake of The Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa from 1954. But Ira Stephen Bear, who was one of the writers of this episode, he made the point to say the title is similar, but the plot is not the same. And I thought, at first I was like, what? But then I thought about it and I realized that in those movies, it's about these people, these kind of ragtag gang of people getting hired to protect a village or town.
Right.
And
it's
that's
like
not
the Three Amigos.
Yeah, that's not what's going on. Exactly. Yeah, Three Amigos. That's not what's going on here. This is almost more like, if anything, is more like a Dirty Dozen.
It's
whereas you get these people together, presumably they have different skills. The comedy here being that their skills are not necessarily like 100%.
They're Ferengi
appropriate
skills,
for this.
Yeah. Not a lot of concern over Moogie. I mean, there was Rom and Quark, they wanted to save Moogie, but like, of course, they have to divvy out. They're like, well, while we're at it, let's get a bunch of profit, which is very, I guess, Ferengi and stuff. But I would have thought Nog would have been a little more concerned.
Beating him on the head, man.
Well, that wasn't until later because he was being a fucking little snot with her. And Jesse, actually, thank you for reminding me. So not only did he seemed indifferent to her at the beginning of the episode, by the end of the episode, he was malicious to her,
He's better than all those Ferengi,
So maybe
man. He's a Starfleet officer.
Well, he certainly thinks so.
But if you're a Starfleet officer, don't you want to save this woman's life?
The Ferengis aren't in the Federation.
Which you got to pick a side, Jesse. Which one are you going with? He was anyway. He's a Starfleet officer. And that's his grandmother. You'd think he would.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but actually, he wasn't even doing it for money either. He just wanted the cool title, basically.
Well, that's the
he
thing.
Wanted to be in charge.
Each of these people, and which is not unusual, they are all enticed into this mission by being given something that they want. Whether in Nog's case, it's a rank. Sort of a pseudo rank, you can pretend
something on his resume.
Yeah, and he's a young guy who's trying to prove himself, so that totally makes sense to his character. I guess what I'm getting into this rant about how awesome it is that they are able to have all these different characters who we've all seen before, by the way, right? So each of these Ferengi, Lek and Brunt and Cousin Gala, like we've seen all these people before.
So real
Cousin
quick,
Gala, man.
that was an episode. That was a Quark-centric episode, right? Where he was talking because Quark was like, "I'm happy at the bar. I don't make as much money," but you could tell he was clearly jealous of Gala because Gala was a weapons dealer and he owned a planet basically,
or a moon.
A moon. That's what it was. It was a moon. And now he's in jail for vagrancy. Like,
Because what happened is he brought Quark in that previous episode. Gala brought Quark in on his business because he thought Quark's connections could help him sell weapons. And not to give spoilers, but through the course of the plot of that episode, Quark basically fucks Gala over. And that's why he got out of, he was fucked over, and that's why he was a vagrant, because he's poor.
right. And so I think it's I was more commenting on the fact that so he was a vagrant on Talos 6 because he had no money. Because he had no money.
Is that in the
left.
same system as Talos 4?
Probably.
Maybe, which would be weird.
Because that would be like a forbidden system.
Because Talos 4 is
Where's Earth 2?
I don't know. Where's Miri's planet?
That's Venus.
So what I was saying is, so if you're just the concept of being arrested and put in jail for vagrancy is a strange concept, because it's like
kind of racist.
It's like kind of, you take someone, they don't have any money, they can't afford anything, so they're they don't have a home or anything, so you put them in jail, which gives them a home, but then you're like, the only way you can get out is if you pay a fine. It's like, that's why I'm fucking
It's
here.
like the debtor's prison.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like debtor's prison.
Or when they remember when they used to put people out on like boats out in Baltimore Harbor and say, okay, when you can pay us, you can get off this boat.
Oh man. God damn it.
It's a trick.
Yeah, it's a trick. So
but presumably not. I mean, I guess you wouldn't see that on a Federation place. They would zap your brain and fix you or something.
So and that's
Quark paid his bail or something.
Yeah, cool.
So
Yeah.
It probably wasn't that much.
So that's what I was wondering. What kind of station was that? That couldn't have been a Federation station.
It looked like your standard sort of
Now,
Federation Starbase.
I'm gonna-
it did
Starfleet,
look like
Starfleet.
that.
But now, and I'm not gonna belabor this point, but I am gonna bring it up. We're going to the idea of like credits and the future and currency.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I understand, I get it. I understand that there's gold pressed latinum that has inherent value. You can't replicate it. That's like, but that's not even valued by the. Doesn't necessarily have to be valued by the Federation for it to have value. It's just some out there stuff.
Right.
But this is an instant where the Federation is specifically saying you have to give us money.
Right. What do you
to
pay
get out
the
of
Federation? They don't use.
Yeah,
exactly.
I thought
That's a good point.
we learned from the episode where Picard sent that rich 1985 dude back in time. He was like, you don't get it, do you, man? You don't need money in the future.
Right.
You have everything you need.
It's the future,
It's
man.
the future. You can do whatever you want because you don't need money, except if you get caught for vagrancy and they're thrown in jail. Apparently, but maybe all that is. Maybe
That's just the vagrancy.
Maybe there's separate. Maybe each planet still has.
He got thrown in jail for being a Ferengi on the wrong planet.
Yeah, so that's definitely non-Federation.
we know there's a lot of anti-Ferengi sentiments in and amongst the Federation. Remember when Ensign Kim was on Deep Space
we've
Nine?
heard
He was
about
all
you,
like,
Ferengi.
he was like being racist to Quark.
He was like, they told us in the academy like not to trust Ferengi.
You're all sneaky, greedy pieces of shit.
They taught it. You're right.
Or
There
on
is.
lower decks.
There's a whole class about that. Yeah, lower decks. That's right. They take advantage of that in one of their plans. They play with the
So-
stereotype of the
Hooman.
Ferengi.
So there is some systematic racism in Starfleet and the Federation.
Absolutely.
But I was thinking maybe each planet still, because how does that work? Each planet must still have their own specific laws and stuff. So
It's a good question.
So how does that play into currency? And I guess on Earth there's no want for there's no need for currency, but maybe on Zip Zap 7.
yeah, if you want to
It's a
trade with other
plot
people, you need some sort of currency. And at this point in time, we've learned that that Latinum is the currency because that works everywhere.
So they didn't really think it through. They didn't really explain it too well in TNG then, because they were basically like, in the future you don't need money, but it's like if
But they were
you're
also
on
like,
Earth.
they were also like, you don't need to go to those other places.
Yeah, right.
You don't need to go outside the Federation.
Well, even within the Federation, apparently you gotta spend
No,
money.
well, it's not made clear here. But
Yeah, so we don't need to.
But to get to my original point, which was we've seen all these Ferengi before, and it's a great example of what Deep Space Nine was able to leverage due to its stationary, no pun intended, nature, and the fact that we're in the 6th season at this stage, that they have this ridiculously deep bench of characters, one-off characters that they can just bring back at any time. And in this episode, we get to see this crazy, ridiculous adventure with a bunch of Ferengi, and none of them are new. Lek is the least developed because I don't even know if he has lines in the episode that he appears in. He might only be lurking around.
It's cool to see them all, like, worlds colliding, though, seeing them all come together.
But the main thing that's so great about this episode is that all 6 of these people these Ferengi, are clearly individual. Like, you can tell them apart super easy. You do not get confused between Brunt and Gala and Lek and Rom,
Which
and
is
Nog.
unique for most Ferengi appearances. There's usually like a chorus of Ferengi.
Exactly.
Like a bunch of extras.
They paid the money for the good makeup, and the actors are so good that they're carrying themselves differently. Brunt, Jeffrey Combs playing Brunt is always very like standing up, like he's got some giant stick up his ass.
Yeah, and the cousin guy is just a doofus.
He's a kind of a piece of shit doofus, and then Lek, he's just sort of always hunching. He's more like old school Ferengi, like
Yeah, he is.
but that they can do that and have this story with no new characters, at least in terms of the Ferengi. Even Kevin, the Vorta, we saw him before. He was in an early season 6 when they crashed the runabout, or they're dealing with a downed Dominion ship or whatever. I think it's the second episode of the season, but Kevin is captured in that episode. So that's just really cool that we can have that. We can play with this story in a way that would have been. You could do that on TNG. You could do that it's even harder on Voyager because they keep traveling. But in Deep Space Nine, you just keep pulling these people back, and you don't require any explanation because they're all in the general region.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine has that setup that like hospital shows have the most setup, which is
That's a great analogy.
the guest of the week, basically type of deal, and then you can build up these guests of the week, and like you said, come back to them later. They did that in other shows that I've seen that involve people, but yeah.
Wait! You're watching other shows now?
There's other shows.
How do you have time to watch other shows other than Star Trek shows?
I got a lot of free time,
Just
man.
Deep
I can
Space
stop.
Nine.
I can freeze time. The problem is when you freeze time, it freezes the video too, so you don't save that much time in the end.
That's right. If your goal is to watch TV, I never considered that. That's really upsetting.
Yeah.
Somehow that's upsetting. I something that's impossible, and I knew it was impossible. I'm still annoyed now that if it were to become possible, it's going to slightly aggravate me because it's really going to limit how much fun I could have with that feature.
Ishka. Did we see her ears in I don't remember what her ears looked like in previous episodes, because as we all know, she got captured on the way from getting the ear lift, which I guess ears are like boobies on Ferengi, like you can lift them.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
It's weird.
They didn't.
Do men get ear lifts in Ferengi culture on Ferenginar?
Well, you would think because the ear thing is all about like
bigger
you want to
ears.
have big ones.
Yeah, you want to have big ones.
But I don't think Grand Nagus had a ear lift.
He didn't need it. He's got huge ones.
Yeah,
but no, she lifted her ears because they were probably sagging. That's why I said for the women Ferengi, ears are like boobs, but for guys, they're like they're
big
they're
floppy
like balls,
dicks.
They're
big floppy dick balls.
So when I was confused when they released Kevin. When we first got introduced to Kevin. So the exchange.
That's such an asshole.
He was an asshole. The exchange at the beginning of the scene, right before we see him, something's going down, and Quark's like, "Captain, I can't thank you enough for all your help." And then Sisko's like, "Don't thank me, thank Major Kira. She's the one that convinced me to talk to Starfleet on your behalf." So, side note I'm about to bring up. That's
all right,
not my main point.
Get ready.
So when
Side note.
when
This
Kira,
is the side note, right?
Yes.
Okay, side note.
When Kira goes, "Consider it payback, Quark," initially I was like, she's talking shit. But then she was like, for rescuing me from the Dominion. So it was like, she's not talking shit. She's legit. And so I've never seen Kira so fucking what's the word I'm looking for? But nice, yeah,
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, just sort of like
not ready to bite you.
Yeah, it shows an honest affection that's not actually affection's not the right word, but it's kind of like
gratitude.
But it's also consider the construction of her sentence, because I think you pointed it out well. She said payback. That's the language she's used to. Is payback.
Right,
She didn't say I'm returning the favor or I'm making it up to you or I owe you big time.
Right, exactly. It's payback.
Yeah, so she's still got to let him know who's in charge.
Yours.
That's interesting. It made me think about how when her and Odo got together, it makes sense because both of them have this love-hate relationship with Quark. Yeah. Odo has the cuter relationship with Quark. Kira more just wants to fucking hates Quark, I think. But so that was the side point. All
right, back to shifting back. The exit is reconnecting.
In the main part of the
at
story.
the rest stop where you pull off, and then you got the rest stop part, and then you pull back on carefully because there's a lot of trucks on the highway. Continue.
Oh, it's my turn now. Okay. So I was just taking a drink.
Vorta.
So when Quark's like, I can't thank you enough, and he's like, yeah, you know, she helped us. So what is this? What is Quark? What is the Captain Sisko helping Quark with? The next line, Sisko says, breaking you out of the station's holding cell is one thing. Okay, first of all,
He's referring to what?
Is he referring to Kevin?
No, he's referring to Kira. Quark rescued Kira from being under Cardassian controller. It's a vague memory. I think it is confusing, but I think it's supposed to. He's making a comment saying Kira's doing you this favor. However, what we're doing, in Sisko's opinion, is of more like weight and like this prisoner is more important than that favor.
Okay.
I think that was the implication.
That makes sense. I will go with that. So they're pretty much releasing this Kevin guy. They're just Starfleet
to Quark's custody for the purpose of a prisoner exchange.
Yeah, it just seems like
because they couldn't do the commando mission.
But it seems like the Federation wouldn't be allowed to just like release some prisoners on the sly. You know what I mean?
Sisko's kind of in charge of this area, and he's pretty high up because he works with Admiral Ross all the time.
So what is Sisko worried about then? I know it's dangerous for Quark. So is he just telling Quark, watch out? No, you said that he's like, our favor is we're risking more by doing our thing. What are they What are they risking? What is Sisko risking?
He's giving up a prisoner, and he's risking exactly. So
I guess he's risking Quark losing the prisoner and something, or him getting in trouble administratively for it.
Similar to what Jesse was alluding to earlier. This is a sort of classic dilemma and drama that's in a prisoner exchange. In that you've got the kind of like a Bridge of Spies situation, that Spielberg film about the. The U-2 pilot.
The one about the trucker who keeps trying to run that guy off the road?
Yeah, exactly. That one. That's Bridge of Spies, is with the truck, and he's trying to run the guy off the road. Yeah. He did it before Jaws, right before Jaws.
Yeah.
Right.
But the point being that you want to exchange prisoners, but then even when you exchange the prisoners, it's like you want to get your person back, but if you give their person back, then that person conceivably can then tell them what they told you, and then that gives your enemy help. But that's the same thing is true on both sides. So if they decide to do the prisoner exchange, it's because they both are willing to they want the value as well as the problem.
I think that's a fair answer, and I feel like I can close that thread in my head and not worry about it anymore. I like how
thread in my head.
I like how Quark and Rom are like walking through. They're not even Jeffries tubes. They're just
it's a Cardassian Jeffries.
One of my favorite parts of the episode because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and when they somehow can bust into Sisko's office. I like when they leave. Sisko's like, "What is this rinky-dink operation?" Man? It's like, what the fuck?
He's like, can I help you with something?
Yeah, he's giving like the fucking sharp dagger eyes to Quark, and then afterwards he's like, motherfucker.
Like, what am I supposed to do?
I like it. Like Rom is so great. Like when he like hits his head, and it's the whole like comedic timing of him like taking time to be like, oh
yeah, right. Oh yeah, yeah.
Or like that exchange where Quark is
going no,
yeah,
no.
It's like she's helping to run the whole thing, and he's like no.
Moogie and the Nagas are lovers. No. Max Grindenchick is great. He auditioned for Quark, actually. Didn't get it, but I think they might have even created the Rom character for him. I could have that wrong, but I think that's the case, that they really liked him, and he had been, if I recall correctly, both he and Armin Shimmerman had played Ferengi before on TNG. And then Armin Shimmerman played a couple other things.
Most of the Ferengi you see on TNG.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that line where you were just talking about where he kept going, no. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was when he was talking about Nagus and Moogie together. He did the rule of 3 on that one because like Quark's like, they're lovers. He's like, no. And he's like, it's been going on for over a year. No. She's secret financial advisor. She helps him run the entire Ferengi Alliance. No. I can't even do it. And Quark's like, stop saying that.
And there's a huge smile on his face at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like an upset no. It's like, you're kidding.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then there was
you're goofing me.
And it was the same kind of thing, like that comedic timing when it was such a dumb line where he's like, he was like, "Would you like to play? Would you like to go hide next or something?" Like, it's like
Quark's like, I've been looking for you everywhere.
oh, you found me.
I forgot about that.
You want to hide next?
That was really great.
Yes, the delivery. Yes,
The humor in this episode is great, and it's even greater because the backbone of the episode is it's pondering the notion of what makes a hero, right? So, what makes a hero, and there are a couple lines that relate to that, but there's that great line from Odo early on in the episode where towards the beginning of the episode, obviously, Quark is has everyone's attention, maybe regaling them about his wonderful negotiating technique to get the special syrup, maple syrup,
which people were impressed by.
They were.
Oh, syrup of squill.
But the syrup of squill that you put on your groat cakes.
Yeah.
Is that what they said? I could never.
Groat
I wasn't.
cakes.
It was like a grow cakes. I wasn't sure exactly what they were saying.
Groat cake. Which that, by the way, this does not actually provide us any information.
Yeah, of course.
Knowing the proper term does not give us more information about what a groat cake
It
is.
sounds enticing.
Is it like a pool of lizard shit or something?
Yeah, that's why groat doesn't sound.
I want to eat it.
It's like you
groat cake.
If you could put syrup of squill on it, I think it's good.
You make groat cakes. What you have to do is you have to scrape off like
that Dabo girl.
You have to scrape off that corner of the bathroom behind your toilet and get all that groat.
That's grout cake. Grout cake.
Okay. Yeah, you're right because So he's like everyone's impressed and stuff, but it's not the same as being a hero.
And he gets bitter when the attention is taken away, and he is honest about it. He straight up tells Odo, like, yeah, I'm bitter because I was like, top of the pops here, and then these
king
people,
of the syrup
these people walk in and take all the attention away, and Odo says. Because Quark is like, they're just why do people care? They're just Starfleet officers. And Odo says they're not just Starfleet officers, they're heroes.
Yeah.
Let's face it, Quark, there's nothing heroic about earning profit.
Well, it was like O'Brien and like Dax, and it was
it's the only time we see them in the episode. They're gone the rest of the episode.
At least we saw O'Brien in this episode, and not in that. We didn't see him in that TNG episode we watched.
But so immediately you see something flip, a little switch flip in Quark's head, where when this dilemma comes up, we now have his justification for not using all his, he could have asked Captain Sisko for help. He could have asked a lot of people for help, and he wanted to prove that Ferengi could do something.
Yeah, he made a side comment about like when Odo was saying there's nothing heroic about earning profit. And he's like, on Ferenginar there is,
right.
And I guess it's the difference between being like it's skill. His negotiating skills were not heroic; they were just skillful. Yeah. And so that's the difference. Is you can like be like impressed with someone and clap at their skill, but then when you have a hero come in, they're gonna probably pretty much.
It makes sense from the Ferengi philosophical perspective, where how it makes sense.
But nobody's risking their lives. It makes sense.
No. Yeah, but it makes sense
I agree
because in Ferengi culture, profit is more equivalent to actual life.
Yeah.
In other words, if you lose that, you are losing quality of life in the same way somebody might if they lost a leg or something.
Yeah, no, it's true. You are risking in that culture.
Risk.
It is a risk, and it can mean your life depending on what kind of tactics.
So they see that as brave
because Ferengis have to keep pushing the line of what they're willing to do for a negotiation, which can put them in some dangerous scenarios.
I think a Ferengi who invests in very conservative mutual funds and does well over time is going to be looked down upon relative to the Ferengi
that owns the moon,
who is throwing cash around like crazy into like risky investments and doing shady deals and Quark style.
But what's interesting is by the end of the episode, he essentially became. I'm convinced that he became a hero of sorts by the end of the episode. But it was because of that same negotiating skill.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They just applied it to.
They just applied it to. It's not profit. They do something
precisely.
else.
They solved the problem using a Ferengi mech, and that's overt in the episode where they're at first trying to train and do it militia style,
right.
and then they figure out and state it overtly. They're like, we have to do
really
this.
Bad.
I like
We're
how
not good at this. We have to do this the Ferengi way.
I like how Lek just didn't give a fuck. He was bored. He was like, fuck this shit. So
it's like you shot Moogie. It was like, well, I just put her out of her misery because we weren't gonna win.
He was just bored,
and he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
But like you see how like the Ferengi don't have armies and they don't fight wars. It's because like you'd have to keep paying the Ferengis like more and more.
Yeah.
It's like well, okay, we need you to fight this battle. Well, are you going to pay me more? It's like it would be a ridiculous expenditure
it's all like,
to
what's in it for
field
me?
a Ferengi army.
See, that's okay. That part in the episode where Nog was telling they were just like, get to the infirmary base camp, and they weren't moving, they were dragging
Right.
ass, and then of course Quark's like,
so
first,
you got to bribe them.
You got to
Yeah.
motivate the people the way they're
the-
going to be motivated.
Yeah, but the thing about that was weird is that they already made the agreement that they're going to get paid X amount for doing exactly what they're supposed to
Sure.
be doing.
Yeah, but you got to pay them.
You got to keep paying them along the way too.
Yeah.
that sounds
It's
like
like
real
a-
life too. It's like
Because-
what happens at work.
It's like a bellhop in New York City.
So it's basically like
Hop
they're-
two.
So
Isn't
basically,
that what you say to bellhops?
so you
Hop two.
you hop because they're bellhop.
Yeah, you wave some dollar bills.
You
and
ring,
you're like,
you ring a
hop
bell.
two.
You-
You ring a bell. It's like, come here, sir.
You wave
Ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
2 bills and say hop 2, meaning here's 2 bills.
Take my luggage.
for the
sir.
hopper. So you make the initial deal for the whole thing to go down, and then along the way, in order to not die. Because if they just dragged ass and didn't go to the infirmary, they would be left out to
Yeah,
fucking get shot, and it would all fall apart. But the only thing that's going to motivate them to stay alive is a couple slips of
So
latinum.
here's the deal.
It's very impulsive.
They
Short-sighted.
They solve the problem using Ferengi ideals
No,
and
I mean,
philosophy,
yeah.
but they also cause problems because of their Ferengi ideals and philosophy, like bickering over being cheated by Quark when Rom accidentally reveals that Quark's deception, because Quark tells everyone that there's 20 gold bars of gold pressed latinum, and in fact there are 50.
And right.
And then they squabble with each other
Right.
over money,
And
even though their lives are at risk.
Yeah.
There's an army outside.
Well, I mean, that's like it was their lack of trust that was the biggest threat to the mission. The fact that they were lying to each other, didn't trust each other, all over money and stuff like that.
And a
That
very
was a big-
Ferengi style lack of trust. It's not a
Yeah.
different type of lack of trust. Like they weren't worried about being stabbed in the back or murdered by the other person or anything. They were worried about being cheated out of their fair share.
But the same reason that Quark cheated them out of their fair share is this. That's the same reason they're like, well, we want 2 slips of latinum if we're going to keep doing our job.
they should have respected him for that and been like, well, we caught you. So more props for giving it the good Ferengi try. But now we've caught you because your brother's a moron. And he doesn't.
I'm just, I
And
don't.
by the way, I love that it's important to note Rom is sweeter than Quark and he's nice and he's all good at engineering, but they've repeatedly demonstrated that Rom is still greedy. He still wants the money. He's not always good at getting it, and he can be a little sheepish and he can be a little non-confrontational. But when it comes down to it, Rom wants the cash. He's annoyed at himself for accidentally revealing this because now he's going to get less cash.
Yeah, I think maybe the person to blame more in the situation of them getting 2 slips of latinum is because they know Quark will give it to them. Quark should have just used logic and said,
That's like parent logic. It's like if you give them the pudding, they're going to expect the pudding every day.
I know that it's not so easy as to say, just explain to them what they're doing doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it's like they asked for those slips of latinum because Quark keeps giving it to them. But it's deeply ingrained in Ferengi culture. I get it. Yeah.
And the thing is
And it's not bad. It's just different.
It's if from a
Even though it almost
management
destroyed the
from a
mission.
management perspective, to be a good manager, good leader, part and parcel of that is having an understanding on an individual basis, ideally, of what motivates the people who you are leading. And in this case, it's just it's a very Ferengi style. That wouldn't work on Nog, by the way. They had to motivate Nog in a different way. They had to motivate Lek in a different way.
So throwing them a few slips in here and there, Quark saw it as a business investment to keep them more on their toes.
I would say more that Quark in a leadership role he was recognizing what Nog wasn't. Nog being a green officer.
Yeah.
He's only an ensign and he hasn't learned this lesson yet. It's just like Captain Picard knew that he had to talk to Data one way and he had to talk to Worf a different way. He had to talk to Riker a different way, right? In order to get them motivated, get them feeling good about whatever. His pep talks are customized to the person. And Quark is doing the same thing here by saying like this, you're not going to motivate them by yelling at them in military terms. That is, in fact, that's going to have the opposite effect because they're going to be like, you're an obnoxious person. You're just annoying us. We don't even know what you're saying. You're talking about base camp.
It's interesting because
they just Ferengi. That's just not part of Ferengi culture.
It's interesting when it comes down to business transactions. That's when you start. I mean, you want to
Business ethics.
You want to make sure you get the most money that you can out of the situation, but you have to recognize, I guess, when it's smarter to give up some of that money in order to have a more consistent result.
Which is the equivalent of investment, right? You're running a business, it's going well, but you have to invest money in order to keep your business growing or expanding or up with the times or with the technology that you need.
Well, Quark has shown that he's a Ferengi with also maybe a little bit more empathy than most Ferengis, maybe. I don't know. We get to know him better. We get to know him better, so we see more sides of
He's a
him.
more sympathetic character.
And most of the people he ends up dealing with are shitty Ferengi. They're all assholes.
I bet there's a lot of Ferengi leaders that would have not given them the money, that would have just said, fuck you, you agreed to this already, keep doing your job. But
they might have motivated them with a phaser or something.
are a villainous, sort of enemy race until we get to Quark, and Quark is the guy that we get to know as a person.
Yeah, they just took over. Yeah, what was it? How many of them took over the Enterprise in TNG? Was it 3 of them, 4 of them? I don't know.
Just a couple of them.
Yeah,
and then it was
a few of them.
A few ships have gotten taken over by Ferengi at different points, and of course, everyone in the audience probably is already fully aware that when they first introduced the Ferengi in that last outpost, I think is the episode in TNG, they were intended to be the replacement for the Klingons because at this stage they decided Worf is an officer, and they wanted to demonstrate. Roddenberry wanted to demonstrate a future in which previous enemies could become allies. So the Federation is now allied with precisely it's the exact same thing as Chekhov. You have Chekhov, then Worf, but they wanted a new enemy, and they were also in early TNG. Roddenberry had this whole thing about minimizing references to the past, like even references to Spock or Kirk or anything like that. It's not that they couldn't do it, but he really wanted to minimize that and let TNG be its own thing. And so which was good. They did come up with a lot of cool new characters, like the Cardassians, and of course the Ferengi end up being good. But initially, they were meant to be these terrifying evil villains, and they weren't. They were comical with their little laser
guys.
whips, and they were all like, "Human."
Or you first see them on the view screen, and like it's all like a close up, so they look all huge. Yeah. And then you go to I think they meet them on a planet, and they're like these little guys with whips,
hunchbacked, and they're all like, it was ridiculous. So they refined that and fixed that on Deep Space Nine, which was great. Starting with Quark and Rom, and then
although Armin Shimmerman was in that first.
He was.
Episode.
Yeah, he was.
So, I mean, as far as Quark being a hero goes, he's doing this just so people can worship him in the end anyways. So is that really heroic? I don't know. Do the ends justify the means?
I would disagree slightly with that characterization because I think whether it got through or not, I think what that initial scene with Odo and some of those subsequent scenes, I think what they're supposed to convey to us is that Quark felt that Ferengi could be better. That they could do better, that they could have the capability based off of past history and stuff like that. They're not as feeble as people were making them out to be. Yeah,
it was catalyzed though by him losing the attention of people.
Yes, it was, but I think he agreed. I think Odo said, "Look, they're heroes, you're not, and they're going to trump you." And I think it's not that he was like, well, I'm going to be a hero to get the attention. I think that at least what we're supposed to take away from that is more that he felt stung by the idea that he wasn't a hero or that he wasn't being seen as a hero, especially at this stage in the series where he's already done a number of things that individually you could argue are heroic, but often self-preservation as well, right? So it's he did go out of his way to help Kira, for example, which is referenced in this episode. So he's risked his life before to save people. So in that sense, he shouldn't worry about being a hero himself. But I think it was almost a pride thing, a Ferengi pride thing to say, like, look, all these people think we're chumps.
This is how the Ferengi would do it. This is how we would be.
Yeah.
We would do something heroic.
And of course, part of the Ferengi heroicism involves coming up with a bunch of ridiculous plans that don't work, fumbling through, improvising, which Ferengi are good at, improvising at the last second, figuring something out, that actually not entirely working in the end, and then still coming out ahead.
And still like lucking out into like taking a better prisoner and like.
That's one interpretation.
It is one interpretation. It need not be the only one.
I'm not saying you're right, but I'm not saying you're wrong. And I can see myself in a certain point in my life completely agreeing with you. But that's not to say that I disagree with you now.
One bit of textual evidence that I think is on my side.
You made a very good argument.
I think one bit of textual evidence that is on my side is, in fact, an absence of evidence, which is if it were about him receiving adulation, there would have been a final scene with him receiving adulation, which there really isn't here. It's more they're just happy. They got Moogie and they get.
But they did
together.
make the comment of like, does it feel good to be a hero? And Quark's like, fuck yeah, it is.
Yeah. I'm just saying they didn't have him like in front of 100 people being all like, yeah, Quark, all right, you did it. You the boys did it, Quark, all right.
They didn't get medals.
Tell us the tale of Empok Nor, Quark.
Spoiler alert for Back to the Future. Apparently,
Twin Pines Mall. Lone Pine Mall.
Crispin Glover, he had a big problem with the ending of Back to the Future because he thought it promoted like
ancestral love.
No, I'm sure he thought that was great, just like the rest of us. But no, because the Marty's like, they're rich.
Marty, you made it.
They're back, and Marty, they're rich, and Marty got the car he always wanted. He said it was just so materialistic. Like the happy ending is the happy ending.
I agree.
The happy ending is simply just getting a bunch of cool shit. Like if you do good in life, you'll get a cool car.
And you play more tennis.
A cool monster truck.
More tennis.
You play more tennis with your wife, and you get your son gets a monster truck, and you wrote a book.
Right. Why did I say that? Oh yeah, because like
I don't know. Why do you say anything there?
I don't know. No, because
it's cool.
You were just mentioning how there wasn't a scene at the end where a bunch of people were openly worshiping Quark, and I was like, well, that would be a little bit in your face. But then I started thinking that Back to the Future is a fantastic movie. The ending was a little in your face.
But you didn't even have like a scene where he's back at his place, like telling a story behind the bar.
Yeah,
you didn't even have that.
I wanted to see him just grab a bottle of squill sauce.
Right, syrup of squill.
Syrup of squill, and he just starts chugging it down. He's like, I fucking earned this.
It's like, I'm the king of fucking squill, baby.
I earned this. We took down 2 Jem'Hadar. I earned
We
this.
shot him.
For some reason, I have written down "squill for a trill." I don't know why I wrote that.
Well, there was a trill on the stage.
I suspect.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with squill?
I have a suspicion as to why you wrote that down because they rhyme.
Yeah, but like, was there a moment where Dax was like, "Hey, squill"?
No, but she likes that stuff.
No.
I don't even know how to interpret that.
I don't
she
either.
Likes it. You know how she likes it.
It sounds bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's she quite probably
it
does.
rhymes with her species. So.
It does. Squill and trill.
Species.
Well, speaking of Empok Nor, first of all, like I was saying before, they have all these characters that we've seen before, Kevin and all these Ferengi and Ishka / Moogie. We've seen her before, and so we get to capitalize on that. And it's the same with Empok Nor because now that's almost like a character because there was an episode in the 5th season called Empok Nor, and
is that the abandoned?
That's the
station?
Abandoned space station.
I like how it was all like sideways.
Yeah, I know. It's like
really cool.
That's like the sister station.
It's like Citizen Kane or something.
Because DS9 was originally Terok Nor, and so Empok Nor was its sister station, but it's totally abandoned and it's all basically haunted. The Empok Nor is a great episode, by the way. It's like a haunted house episode. It's like a really good episode of DS9. It's a kind of fucked up episode, but I liked how it was tilted, and I like again that's like a place we can go. And even though it's clearly just the Deep Space Nine sets with a bunch of boxes hanging around, you know that intellectually, but it's this location you get to go back to, and that's what we don't see as much of on the other Trek series where they're bouncing around.
It's always a new planet.
And even when they go back to Earth or whatever, they're going to some other place on Earth. It's like we're going to a similar, like the same place we were at before. Empok Nor.
Totally.
That also rhymes.
Like Empok Nor, when they were all waiting for the Dominion to come over. Didn't Nog say, hey, no, Quark said, hey, Nog, set up an alarm, man. I want to know if they're within 10 million kilometers of this place. All right? 10 million kilometers.
10 million.
And then when the alarm went off, Nog was like, that's my alarm, just like you said. And then within a minute, a whole squad of Jem'Hadar were fucking filled in the promenade.
Yeah.
And so...
Hey, they got transporters.
Nog's a dummy.
They got warp drive.
So first of all, they can just transport like a shit ton of people at once within a minute. They can go 10 million kilometers in the other half of that minute.
It's cinema, baby.
And
they got the warp
build that
drive.
tension.
No, wait, so I know you can... like, okay, I know you can do anything with a fucking transporter nowadays.
You can do anything with it.
But
It's like, you know what it's like? It's like Zombo.com.
You can do anything.
You can do anything.
But I think it's a little much to say you're gonna transport an entire squad of Gemini in one shot on transporters.
It was a lot more than a squad, man.
Yeah, how many
That was like a company.
Yeah, it was a
Gemini,
company.
Yeah.
How many? How often have we seen the transporter room in DS9?
I don't know if there is one on DS.
Yeah, where do they transport people? I mean, we know that they don't need.
They got a bunch of shuttle bays and docks.
They got like industrial transporters for transporting all that ore. Because
it's an ore.
Deep Space Nine always has that peculiar thing where people are like, why are they processing all this ore on a space station?
Yeah, exactly. Where are they getting it from?
Couldn't they build that? I mean, there's all sorts of reasons for that. I think we've discussed that on previous.
Well, we've discussed why the transporters can break any rules they want to, but you at least need a room to pretend that there's some kind of that there are rules in this world.
You got O'Brien on the station. He's been on the show the whole time. Where's the transporter?
He doesn't like dealing with the transporter.
He doesn't do that anymore. He told himself, he was like, I will. He said Keiko.
He's like, I've promoted. I'm above that.
You know, it's just he's part of his life that he's done, and he's happy he did it. But he's finished with that now, and he's moving on to something else. That's what he had. He was like, Keiko. You know, I love my work. You know, work in the transporter room and all
Standing
that.
alone.
And it led me to where the man I am today. But I'm done with that part of my life now. So he's moving on.
Oh, he totally moved.
It's like when my mom decided to stop teaching piano lessons and only teach voice lessons.
Do you think
that's exactly right?
Yeah.
Do you think
it's like extra money?
Do you think that Keiko was part of why she was super into O'Brien in the first place was because he was the transporter chief, and like when he was like not like when he decided to not be like as into transporters anymore, it kind of took some of the.
That's why she got him.
Some of the fun out of the relationship because maybe she's just that's her kink. She's just turned on by people who are like really good at moving those sliding knobs up and down.
Transport inside of me.
Yeah, he transports in and out of her. He doesn't like. There's no in between. It's like I'm out. I'm in. I'm out.
Sexual intercourse.
Yeah, it doesn't rub back and forth.
He beams his penis in her?
Yeah, he beams it in and beams it out again.
I don't know about that. I'm all for
it's still attached to his body.
I'm all about the transporting poop out because that makes sense to me. Transporting your penis around, I think it's complicated.
It's complicated.
It's the future, baby.
I mean, it seems like more trouble than it's worth.
It's the way of the future.
Way of the future.
See, future. Way of the future.
It's the future.
The future.
Let me see the blueprints.
Way of the future.
Let me see the blueprints.
The
future. That fucking Braun was holding that map upside down.
Brunt?
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
What did I say?
Brunt.
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 I was thinking Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Doc
was
Brown.
that Brunt or was that the cousin guy? I thought that was the cousin.
Gala. It might have been Gala.
Right.
Yeah, because
Brunt is
he was
more
the
with
dummy. Yeah, Brunt was with it.
Brunt is Jeffrey Combs is. I mean, of course,
he can't help it.
He's in a million roles on Star Trek, but Brunt is one of my favorites. And normally, and I know now he's no longer with the Ferengi Commerce Authority, the FCA. But previous to this, he was always
liquidator.
He was always like walking in. Every time he appeared, it was almost a variation on Kramer. Kramer busts in the door and does his slide move. Is more theatrical. But Brunt, you don't know, everything's just normal, and then you turn your head, and all of a sudden Brunt's there, and he's like Brunt.
He's more like Newman.
Yeah, and he's about to like take your shit.
He's Newman.
He's more Newman-y. You're right. He is more Newman-y. That's
he's like the food inspector on Bob's Burgers.
Right.
He's like that guy.
Yeah.
I've always been like that he's got the idea of having this thing called a liquidator. It just takes your shit.
Yeah.
Like gets all your gets all your investments out. He takes your shit. He sells the stuff, like sells your investments and gathers the money and just takes everything you're invested in. Is there what would you say the analog is for Liquidator's Brunt's position in our culture? Or would you just say that's the bank in general?
No, that totally exists. People who...
yeah, I know it does, but like, what do you call them here?
I mean, it's sort of in between a repo man.
Yeah,
but like
right.
It's the repo man and if it was vertically integrated, if the repo man was vertically integrated with the bank or the other loan holder, the person who owns the debt.
That's the thing is the way people retrieve debts now is through... We do it through
obnoxious phone calls.
We do it through contractors and third parties and stuff, but it seems like it's integrated.
That's because this is America.
Yeah, it seems on Ferenginar that though it's part of the government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like their tax man. They probably have a tax man and they have a liquidator. That's probably what it is.
Their government is strong and central.
And sensual? Is that what you say? Strong and sensual?
They have a strong central government based around fully upholding capitalistic procedures and norms. So you would guess that they probably have a very strong court system. They have a strong banking regulation system, and not banking regulation in terms of keeping the banks in check, but in terms of making sure that whoever says they deserve the money, they get their money.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's a very Ferengi specific thing. Yes, there are analogs, like you said, kind of across if a Reaper Man joined up with a bank, but like you said, we don't have an exact thing like that. Like I said, it's like a tax man, except the job is different. But
they're not anarcho-capitalists, right? They're not some Ayn Randian no central authority and capitalism is the government.
No, they're like Hamiltonian.
Yeah, they are centralized. They have a culture around capitalism, and they have a strong way to enforce that capitalism. If you don't, and that's why Quark is always worried about chiefly Liquidator Brunt and what he represents in terms of not being able to do business with other Ferengi, because that's what that Brunt not only can take your shit away,
he can take away your license.
He can put you on a blacklist, and you can still do business, but you can't do business with Ferengi, and even by extension, you can't do business with companies that want to stay in the good graces of the Ferengi because they want to keep trading with the Ferengi. So it really fucks you over.
That's un-American by ideal. Through practice, I'm sure it's something different. But like what we claim, our
those Ferengi are un-American. But with their capitalism and all.
No, but what you just described about like sort of like a centralized way of working capitalism like that. Banning you from trading and doing business and stuff. That seems like goes against like sort of like the way we do things. Yeah. On the surface, everyone can always say, well, actually, if you do some research, you'll find that this happens underneath your nose and you didn't even know it. And it's like, yes, I know, shit like that happens.
The mythology of America, it runs counter to the mythology of America. Yes.
All right.
We haven't spoken about James Osterberg Jr.
Yes, I was going to say, we got to get to the, before we get to our odds and ends, wrapping up any odds and ends.
We have not spoken about Iggy Pop.
Iggy Pop, the brilliant edition of Iggy Pop, the brilliant, confusing, and hilarious edition.
But when he's like Quark or whatever, like when you first hear his voice,
Quark,
he's got that crazy Detroit accent.
It's like really, it's this deep, commanding kind of like voice.
It's fucking Iggy Pop. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so the deal was that Ira Stephen Bear had been apparently trying to get Iggy Pop on the show for a long time, for years, because he just loved Iggy Pop, and it was this weird Ira Stephen Bear. He dyes his goatee is all purple. And
what
stuff.
If I got Iggy Pop on Deep Space Nine?
Yeah, he was really fucking into trying to get Iggy Pop on the show, and originally he was going to have Iggy Pop cast as Grady in past tense, in the past tense two-parter. So Grady is most in the second episode. He's that guy with the long hair, who causes all the shit with Cisco and Bashir trapped back in time. I guess, for those who don't know, past tense is the one where it takes place where Cisco and Bashir get sent back to 2024. And
we discussed that one.
Yeah, we discussed that. I think that was, what was that? Episode 28 of the podcast. If you want to hear our discussion of that, it's a pretty serious and intense discussion, because at the time we recorded that, everyone was pretty upset.
There was a bunch of shit happening.
There was a bunch of shit going down. But so Grady in that show, he plays a pivotal role in that second episode of that two-parter. But Iggy Pop unfortunately was not available to film that episode because of scheduling conflicts. And I think that was a fourth season episode, if I recall.
What was Iggy Pop doing?
He was playing in a band or singing or something.
Was playing music.
But he was available for this episode. Available. Singers in the Sauce, fried green tomatoes.
Available.
And Ira Stephen Bear initially said that, they were happy to have him, but at first he was concerned because he was like, man, we finally get Iggy Pop, but Iggy Pop's whole deal is how lithe he is and his movement and how he's always like jumping around and all crazy. Yeah. And we cast him as one of the most static characters.
Raw power, I can feel it.
Because the Vorta, their whole deal is about moving slowly and elegantly and having a stick up their ass. But in the end, he thought it worked, and I agree. I think it really works to shove
sticks up the ass are usually in the end.
Yeah. So I think it works for Iggy Pop going against type instead of playing like this. You know, he could have played a crazy Klingon. He would have been good as Grady, because Grady, if you remember in that past tense episode, he's all slinking around being like, hey, man, you know, he's almost like a Manson-esque kind of guy.
Remember Grady on Sanford and Son?
I do. And, but in this case, he's got to be more reserved. But I think the result of that is you get that, as you say, Dan, that gravitas really comes out and you take him seriously. And it works great in this episode because it's you don't often see two different Vorta at the same time. And so you have this juxtaposition between the Iggy Pop Vorta versus the Kevin Vorta. And the Kevin Vorta is just like a piece of shit, obnoxious asshole.
Yeah. It's like, we're going to die. We're doomed.
Whereas
We're fucked. That's
Iggy
it.
Pop Vorta, Yelgren?
Yelgren.
I forgot his name. I was always
It's
just
Yelgren.
Yelgren.
Iggy Vorta.
Yeah, Iggy Vorta. He seems like a if you were to categorize the Vorta, which I think you can do, he's one of the higher up ones. He's the one you send in when shit's going down because the other Vorta have fucked shit up.
Well, Kevin was like a negative Nancy because he was basically saying the second he said this, the second we leave Deep Space Nine, you'll have signed your death warrant. And it's like, no, you haven't. They could come back if they want to. It's not like the second they leave, it's point of no return.
I know.
Like,
What if they forgot their their Umox brush or something?
Yeah, I mean, they could go to the station and decide to back out before they show up. I don't know why he's already saying you signed your death warrant like before the missions even started. He was
But the Vorta are just alarmists, man.
he was fucking
Well, he also didn't commit suicide, so it's one of those examples.
you know, he's Kevin, this poor guy, but I mean, you could be considered it was merciful that he got killed because he was
going to get tortured or some shit.
Yeah, because like they treated that like, you know, very with a lot of levity, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
Doing a weekend at Bernie's?
Yeah, the weekend at Bernie's maneuver.
And it was sci-fi weekend at Bernie's, so the poor actor had to be all like twitchy and have his neck to the side.
And before he dies, like they were like reminiscent.
What did you do to him?
Iggy Pop is all horrified and he thinks they've done some horrible torture to him.
They've
Federation's a piece of shit.
the Ferengi are talking about how
He's going to kill him anyway, but he's like horrified.
the Ferengi are talking about how they miss home. They're like, I'm going to miss the rains of Ferengi.
Oh, that was great.
The rotting vegetation.
The torrential rains.
The dampness.
The muck.
Like, yeah, rivers of muck. And then Kevin, of course, is all sarcastically like, I only wish I could be there with you. And then, like, which of course means he won't because he's going to be tortured to death.
They made it sound pretty good,
And when
I
he
think.
when he says that, when he's like, I only wish I could be there with you, like, the Ferengi are all just like, ha ha ha, yeah, you're right. You're not going to be, though.
You're going to die.
You're going to die and you're going to be tortured to death.
Ferenginar is for the Ferengi.
So, like, even the Ferengi were just, like, laughing at this guy who's doomed to be tortured to death. It was fucked up. And, like, when he gets shot, he does that whole, he gets shot and he goes, like, I hate Ferengi. Right before he collapses and dies.
That his last words.
It's like, that's that comedy bit that they, you know, it's like, oh, well, I hate Mondays. And then they fall off a cliff, you know? Like, they pulled that, which was actually, I thought it was kind of funny, but...
It was funny.
But it was also just like, Jesus Christ, this poor guy.
I like that he commits to the bit. I'd like to think I would commit to the bit too and say
I would
something
like to-
hilarious when I'm dying as well.
When I'm like about like crossing the threshold.
Yes, as you're crossing the threshold, you just gotta have like a good
God.
one-liner.
Fucking
Now I'm
Ferengi.
bummed out.
Crossing the threshold.
Goddamn Breen.
It's got Crossing the Threshold, Stories from the Other Side.
You know-
That's our new podcast. It's going to be released every Wednesday.
That Yelgren character, when Quark was all like, you know, just wait here a couple days, and then someone will come pick you up. And he just agrees to it, like, yeah, that sounds about right. Wait a couple days. Like, I bet Yelgren didn't even bring like his movie tablet or anything. You know what I mean? Like, he probably has nothing to fucking do.
Vorta don't watch movies.
I don't think they're into
I
that.
think
So
they
what
just,
is he gonna do
they
for
just
2
stand in the
days?
They just stand in the corner and think about the founders.
Who knows?
Just think about the founders all day.
They do.
God,
They're
those
genetically-
founders are something else.
Those Dominion fucks, who cares what
They're
they
just genetically programmed to stand around thinking about the founders.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess he didn't have to think ahead on that one.
They were genetically engineered from like little forest pixies.
Do you think those starships, though, do you think they have some kind of form of like video entertainment they can watch in case like
They
normal
got the
people?
whole database. You can watch
Totally,
all
dude.
13 seasons
yeah.
of King of the Hill.
Oh yeah, you probably
You can
could.
watch Fried Green Tomatoes.
You can watch.
You can watch all those Enterprise.
You can watch.
You can
that-
watch Cruel Intentions.
You can watch that old Buster Keaton movie, but it has to be on a see-through screen, so
Yes,
you can
that has
see
to be
what's
see-through
behind.
screen,
So
yeah.
you have to, so you can see what's behind it as you're watching
In
it.
the Federation, you're permitted to watch 20th and 21st century entertainment, but it has to be mildly aggravating when you do do it. It has to be presented in such a way that's just ever so slightly aggravating. All right, so we've talked Iggy Pop. Anything else to close out the episode? Any odds and ends? Any doodads?
There's just a couple quick things. I guess by the end, Yelgren was getting a little bit impatient with Quark. It seems like he was being
I've been ready for hours.
Yeah, he said that like Jimmy Stewart. I've been ready for hours. Sure.
Or he said like
I've been ready in your house.
He's a clone.
In her house.
He's
in
a
her
clone.
house.
He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. And he's like, and I don't have any patience.
Yeah, so he has patience.
Scared of heights.
Yeah, but apparently he has patience to sit for 2 days doing nothing. But waiting an extra 5 minutes while Quark fucking scans just is like such an unreasonable thing to do. But he also agrees to let Quark and them make the deal next to their ships so they can make sure to get away if they need to really fast, Like, it's just, he seems inconsistent but he's losing, he's probably just getting pissed off about things. The more he thinks about those 2 days, he's probably getting more pissed because he's like, I don't have my movie tablet with me. So, like, I'm not going to have anything to do.
I love this term you've invented of a movie tablet.
Well, because they all have different...
As opposed to just I know, you're right. They do have 6 or 7 different tablets, like, just tossed
like
around their bed.
A data pad.
Data pad. Yeah, that's where you go and like see Spot and have sex with Data.
Here's an odd end. Did you notice at the very end of the episode, Rom and they shoot the Jem'Hadar guards. It's the very conclusion when they save the day. They shoot the 2 guards. They save. They don't shoot at Yelgren, and Yelgren ducks. Iggy Pop ducks down and sort of like ducks down into a little ball. And then Quark and Rom and Nog, they're like chatting for a second. And in the background, Iggy Pop is just...
Yeah, that was
weird. He just stayed in a ball.
Yeah, that was
weird. It's not like he got up and looked around or anything like that. He just stayed in a weird little ball. Like the director was like, all right, you just make yourself into a ball and then listen to their conversation. Suicide. Yeah, and he apparently didn't try to commit suicide.
Yeah, and they were just sitting there laughing. Once again, I think they were laughing. They were laughing at the dead Vorta, I think.
You got to, man.
Yeah, but basically they were like, and they said that was weird when he was down. I was wondering what the fuck was going on because I was like, did they shoot him too? And I was like, oh no, he's still alive. Because then Quark goes, we're gonna give you to Starfleet, and they're gonna throw you in jail or
Bonus.
whatever.
It was like a cinematic version of a directorial version of I don't know what to do with my hands. Should I put them in my pocket? I don't know. I'm just kind of moving my hands around all
weird. You get
weird.
one of those hangy belts so you can hold on to it.
He should have been wearing cargo pants because then he could have been rooting around for his camel lights.
That's probably...
They could have had him being like, all right, you win. Now I'm just got to root around. Where's my camel lights? So where's my lighter? It's somewhere in here. Why I've got all this stuff in my pockets.
Does Iggy Pop smoke cigarettes?
Why do I have all these golf tees in my pocket?
They only smoke Pall Malls in the future. So when they're giving
what are those cigarettes called in Toast of London? Is it the
red carpet
cigarettes? That's what they smoke in the future. Red carpet cigarettes.
So Quark is basically threatening Yelgren and saying we're going to give you to the Federation. On what crime? Like, are they just gonna jail him for being part of the Dominion?
Yeah, man.
Good point that I had not considered.
It's a war, baby.
Yeah, like they can just jail the Dominion just because.
Yelgren kept up his entire side of the bargain.
Yeah, he didn't do anything sketchy.
He's a really nice guy.
True.
I mean, he did come a little hard with those Jem'Hadar, but I mean, he didn't shoot him. And I like that scene where Quark's walking down the hallway with Rom and Nog on either side, and you've already seen the room, so you know what's waiting for him, and he's just got this little pistol, this little like tiny hand phaser, and like I think Rom has like a normal rifle, but Quark has this little tiny phaser, and it's just kind of like it's like a good what's it called when you compare two things and their juxtaposition?
Yes.
I used that word. I used that word earlier. I used juxtaposition. I did not use catty corner because it did not apply.
I just thought it was funny in this script that I go chakoteo.net or whatever it's pronounced. When Nog is like, when that guy's like when the Keevan's laying on his back and Nog's like checking to see if he's alive, he's like, I just want to be sure. I thought maybe we could revive him, but I guess not. And then it says in parentheses in the script, it says Nog puts another blinky on Keevan's head and your left arm jerks up and hits him. It's like a blinky.
Blinky.
This is a good website too for scripts.
That's when like Quark's like, thank you, Dr. Nog.
Yeah, so neural stimulator. Yeah, he just controlled him.
So Ishka / Moogie is played by Cecily Adams,
who is not nearly as old as she looks.
She's 9 years younger than Armin Shimmerman. She is the second person to play.
She looks pretty young.
Moogie, because Moogie, this is her second time playing Moogie. Moogie was originated by Andrea Martin, brilliant comedic actress who is a little bit older than Armin Shimmerman, but only by a couple years. And she did it originally in an episode that I think Renee Auberjonois
Reminds me of a
directed.
grandma's mouth.
And so she started the thing, and she they really liked her character in that episode, and they had plans to bring her back. And I forget if it was maybe Ferengi love songs or something like that, or business as usual. They brought the character back, but then Andrea Martin was not available. She was booked to do it, but had to drop out at the last second. And that's when they got Cecily Adams. And then Cecily Adams played the character for the remaining, I think four or five times you see her, and this is the second time she played the character.
But they put
They got the lobe job.
But the makeup they put her makes her mouth look like my grandma's mouth.
Yeah,
where
it's very
like,
jowly.
and jowly and like gummy.
Jowly,
Yeah, like that.
Snuff, beetle snuff.
I just wanted to quickly mention there's the Battle of Prexnack. Is that the first time we heard of that? I don't know. It's basically the 300 story about the Spartans.
No, it was the Battle of Checksmix.
Oh, I thought you were really about to correct me. I was like, I'm ready. I know, I got it written down. That motherfucker.
I am a motherfucker.
Your favorite part of the Chex Mix is the pretzels.
Fuck you, man.
His favorite part is the fucking checks, dude.
The
No,
checks.
it's the
It's all
pretzels.
about the checks. There was a whole discussion on Trek Twitter about what you would take out of the Chex Mix, and I think most people agreed that the
pretzels?
No, it was
Those
the
little
bagels.
breadsticks. Or
What, the bagels? What are you fucking crazy?
The
That's
rye
what-
bagels.
No, the rye bagels are the best ones.
I agree with Dan.
I'm not taking a side on this. I'm just reporting.
Do you like the rye checks?
The rye checks are the least valuable checks, right? So you got your corn, you got your rice. That's what you want. The rye checks is come on.
There's
it's
a
not.
rye
It's
check?
not. Yeah, it's those
It's a
littler.
wheat checks.
It's the.
There's a rye checks.
It might be wheat. Whatever it is, it's that little
the
brown
rye,
one.
the
That
brown
little,
one,
that
it's
little
rye.
hard brown.
I like the
one.
ones that are covered with caramel.
That's not what we're talking about.
I want the Worcestershire sauce because Worcestershire
Yeah,
sauce is
that's
white
all
people
right,
fish
too.
sauce. That's what it is. It's fish sauce.
That's
it's
what
made out of.
that's what Worcestershire
made a bunch of
means.
fermented fish.
It's
Okay.
white people fish.
I was just going to mention, so the Battle of Prexnack we learn about, which is their Czech snack, which we learn that's their Spartans versus the world story.
Spartans, where's the
it
10
is like- it
Ferengis
is like the
versus
Spartans,
273 Litasians or something.
or the Alamo.
Litasians? Is that what they said? I don't even know if I got that number right.
Litations, yeah. Who are the
273.
Litations?
Okay, so I just want to mention that. I wanted to mention that so those weren't Jeffrey tubes that we talked about. Obviously, there was something other
They're
Cardassian things.
Cardi tubes.
Cardi tubes.
They're called spooner tubes.
I was thinking, how can you just casually just like get into the captain's office? I bet they had to have a special. I bet he had to smuggle a special tool to open those
yeah, I'm
doors
sure.
up.
Yeah.
That was the first time they even like knew about that, because like even Cisco was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, that was
It's
so
like,
awesome.
Oh, okay. These guys could have done this the whole time.
And I love how they never tell us like what it is they're doing. Like they're just kind of
Yeah.
wandering
Yeah,
around
they're
in
just
there.
wandering
because you're
around.
like, wait a minute, like,
And they didn't seem to need to do that. They
Yeah,
weren't
they-
actually accomplishing anything
Yeah,
related to their mission.
They just got out.
crawled
they're like,
out of
"Oh."
a tube.
They were just skulking around in the tubes.
Yeah.
In the spooner tubes.
And then I just wanted to mention in the opening, I forgot about this, or at least didn't notice it, or totally forgot. I don't know what point they started putting this in there, but it had when there was the shot of Deep Space Nine from the outside. It showed some dudes performing maintenance on the
yeah.
spider leg
Yeah,
on that
that's- yeah.
on DS9 spider leg, and one guy's pushing a bulkhead around in space, and the other guys are sparking something.
Yeah, that's starting, I think, in fourth season. That's the major upgrade in the fourth season.
Fourth season, the major upgrade of fourth season of Enterprise is when they added a drum beat to the
Yeah.
opening theme song.
Yeah.
Been a long road.
sparking it up.
Getting from there to here. It's been a long time. But my time is finally here.
I'll allow it.
You're
going farther into the song than I've ever
gone. And I'm not gonna take a boo. Wait. And I do try to do the chat archer. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Trip Tucker the Third.
Yeah. Trip Tucker the Third.
That indicates to me that we have...
We've reached the end.
We've reached the denouement of this particular episode.
Yeah, we did. And I'm done with that part. I just wanted to bring up... Like, I think we need... Because you know what gets clicks? When people get to know us. Yeah. We need people... We need to share more about us.
Personal information.
Like personal information.
Should
like
we have a whole podcast about
how much
that?
money we make.
I like the color green.
your favorite color, like your address, your phone number.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
They can't dox you
I live
if
in
you
Vienna.
if you make that they can't dox you if you actually reveal your personal address and other information. That
It's
then
not
it doesn't,
doxing
It's
it.
not
Yeah, because I
doxing if
just
it's
gave
just
it to
public.
you. Like it's not hacking if I gave you the password, right? You know.
My name is Dan.
So what's your
Globitz,
proposition, Dan? Are you
and I live
proposing we
on
should we do
Columbia
special
Pike.
special podcasts where we go in depth and do little documentaries about our personal lives?
Well, you know how you like listen to a radio show, and part of it is like, I just came from home just now, and I found out my dog peed in my mouth when I was sleeping, and then you learn a little something.
And then you
about
identify
that.
you identify with the person.
Right,
But
and
does it need to be real stuff, or could we just make up stuff that we think would trick the audience into being feeling closer to us? Because functionally, it wouldn't be that different.
Functionally,
necessarily.
it wouldn't.
And in fact, saying real things could risk that we in fact alienate the audience. I
don't want to risk that.
and this is mere supposition, but I think the probability is quite high that we might alienate the audience with too much personal anecdote.
There's an
we're so
underground
fucking awesome. They'd be
an underground
jealous.
canal that connects my house with Patrick's house, and that's how I get here every time I come to the podcast.
There's some personal information.
That's a relatable.
Underground canal.
That's relatable.
That's
the
a
underground
relatable-
canal.
yeah,
I didn't know about
underground,
that.
yeah.
I feel really left out. And so now,
Yeah, you see.
now I'm angry at you guys, and that creates some tension.
Some tension and drama.
And so here's the deal. We can make up and stuff after this whole drama tension is over at the end of the episode, but it's still there. You can't
'Cause
erase.
you don't have a boat.
because you
Yeah, this boatless piece of shit.
because you
I don't even know why we let him come over to the studio.
so
he drives a car here like a fucking idiot.
So see what's happening is like there's tension now. But even if we resolve this tension, the audience is going to know, oh, there was some tension. They resolved it, but there's still tension.
It's like a well-crafted musical composition.
Well, check it out. Check it out.
Build up that tension and then release it.
Well, no, check it out. Check it out.
Similar to an orgasm.
Check it out. No,
Dominant pedal
I'm not
part.
fucking done. I'm
Classic
not
orgasm.
fucking done.
Classic orgasm analogy.
I'm not fucking done. Let me
right.
fucking say my shit.
All right.
Okay.
He wasn't wrong about this tension business.
So
We're gonna get tons of fucking clicks out of this shit.
And so what happens is you got the tension settled, and then we don't approach it again for next week, the week after. It could be months, but then one day something will pop up, and the audience will hear that trigger, and they'll be like, "Uh-oh,
Some of them will be all like,
oh shit, how's Dan gonna react to that?" Because I know last time he almost left the podcast over this. Is he gonna do it again?
He walked on the podcast and he got into his car like a fucking poor person.
And so it's
I get to take my boat back to Vienna.
So see, it's an ongoing narrative with no expectation for continuance on a weekly basis. It just pops up every once in a while by accident. We're like, oh, I grabbed another little nuglet about his life.
I just learned recently that in medieval times they called instead of piglets they were called hoglets.
I
was one of
hammer
the
on
term.
my piglet.
Or like hog babies.
Yeah, what was it? There was
Hog
hoglets,
babe.
and then there was gruntling. Gruntling.
Gruntling,
That's my
yeah.
favorite name. I'm going to stop calling them piglets. I'm going to call them gruntlings.
Gruntling.
I thought that They Might Be Giants song where they were like, I'll hammer on my piglet. I thought that's not about hammering on pigs. That's about like hammering on a tool that's used. That's like,
Or
isn't
a toe?
Isn't a piglet like a nail or something?
Or like a toe?
'Cause it's
Do they
made of pig
Do they
iron.
hammer their toe or pig iron?
No,
I don't know. They Might Be Giants is one of my favorite bands, and one of the reasons because many of their songs are, from my perspective, inscrutable.
Well, okay, so when you
Their
say
style is
you're right.
infinite, like the Longines
See,
Symphony.
right. So there is something behind what they're trying to say, and I think
Yeah,
when you hammer
women and men across the ocean.
when you hammer on your piglet, you're hammering on a special type of nail. I think
Yeah,
I can buy that.
because I don't believe that they're sitting there hammering little baby pigs.
Right.
yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'd rather be whistling in the dark.
Yeah.
Whistling, dark. So
All right, so this is the non-Star
So-
Trek portion of the show.
so I just want so for me
It's got They Might Be Giants.
so for today what happened when I was on my way out-
Okay, so you're going to recount a tale to us that will endear you to the audience.
and they'll
To
learn
the audience that has listened this far
So-
and has not turned off the podcast in a
Not-
rage and switched over to Mindscape or the
This
Rachel
can
Maddow
take
show.
3 minutes. This can take an hour. It's all up to you guys.
I know, and I love it. I love it. This is my favorite part. I couldn't care less what the audience thinks about this. Quite honestly, I hope they're entertained. But this is a one man show for me right now.
I have 2 cats, right? And so I woke up, and one of my cats was all like fucking meowing like crazy, just following me around. She was following me around. She was
Yeah.
meowing.
They
That's a
take turns.
relatable story.
And I was like, yeah, that's not over yet. The real funny part's coming up. No. What I just said. No. Yes. No. Isn't that weird when
you
people
tripped over the cat and you injured yourself horribly.
You all should get a divorce. Huh? No. No. Just kidding. So the cat was following me meowing, and I was like, what the fuck does this cat want? So I went around, I looked for my keys, I found my keys.
Did you jingle your keys at the cat? Or did you think the cat wanted your keys?
I just thought that maybe it was like, you need to find your keys. So I found my keys, and it still was meowing. And then, so I tried to turn my computer off and then back on again. I thought that would fix the issue. But the cat was still...
I'm really unclear as to why you would think that the computer being turned off and on.
Because
that's
sometimes...
the default.
Because that's what they say, you know?
Yeah, but what does that have to do with the cat?
Something's
so
up.
you just think your cat is sensing something,
And I had to... Well...
and you're trying to address what it's sensing. You don't think it's sensing an earthquake or a tsunami
I just am trying...
or a carbon monoxide leak.
I'm just trying to reverse engineer its meow to figure out
You think
what
the
it's
cat
getting
wants
at.
you to make sure you have your keys and that you've rebooted because the Microsoft put out an alert that said everyone should update their systems because there's some hacker action.
I am not going to pretend I understand the mind of a cat. Otherwise, this is what I would have known right away, right?
I think you're demonstrating you do not understand.
I know. I am. And that's why I'm saying, like, if I knew what the fucking cat wanted, I would have done it, right away.
They trade off, don't they? Because like sometimes it'll be one cat that's just following you around going wee, and then sometimes it's like the other, like the next day it'll be the other cat.
You
same
know,
time of
you know
day.
you're
I think
fucked if they both are screaming in your face.
I think it's a territorial thing. They go in shifts or something.
They totally go in shifts. It's like
Yeah.
now it's my turn to be in this part of the house going wee.
So the next, what I did is I unplugged all the electrical appliances out of the wall in the house for 30 seconds and waited for the power to charge to leave.
This
the
anecdote
battery
has become somewhat concerning.
it's waiting for the charge to
I'm a
leave.
little bit worried here.
And then I plugged them all back in. Cat still meowing. What's going on? So
I'm starting to get nervous that there's a punchline at the end of this that's going to make me really angry.
I mean, I'm just telling a story about what happened. I don't know.
And you've shifted from anecdote structure into sort of vaudeville structure. That's what's making me nervous because you're like, and then I
says to Mabel.
I unplugged everything. See, I unplugged everything. You know what I mean? I unplugged all the electronic devices.
Well, check it out. So next, what I did, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the dishes. See if that helps. I did the dishes. Guess what?
Cats don't care
Cats
about
what?
if
Yeah,
you
the
do
cat still
dishes.
fucking meowed. But you know what I noticed? When I walked by the bowl of food, the cat started meowing like crazy. Every time I walked by the food bowl during my whole trek around the house, the cat was going apeshit. I was like, oh, that's it. I need to clean the cat bowl. So I washed out the cat bowl with soap and scrubbed it and put it back down, and it was still fucking meowing at me.
He wants food in the bowl.
It's never what
He
you
wants
think.
food?
He wants food in the bowl.
Are you sure about that?
If it was about the cat bowl, they would go to like the opposite part of the house where the cat bowl was, and they would meow over there, and you would be like, "Well, what's over in this part of the house? I don't know."
If they're meowing by the cat bowl, when
Yeah,
you
it's
walk
got
by the
nothing
cat
to-
bowl,
it's
they
got
wanted
nothing to do
food
with
in
the
the
cat
cat
bowl.
bowl.
You think they want food?
You do feed your cats.
Well, I mean,
I still think a punchline's coming. I'm getting really upset.
I mean, I've noticed that like the ribs have been poking through lately, but I just thought they were getting more exercise or something.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to feed them because I usually like pour them like half a can of food once every 2 weeks or something like that. That's like what you're supposed to give them.
We should
right?
switch cats because my cats are too fat and like I can fatten your cats up, and you can like make my cats lose some weight.
After my cat looked at me and I finally, I gave it food. I have to admit, I finally gave it food. And that was the problem with it. And as I was...
the problem with the cat.
Yeah, and as I was...
It was desperately hungry.
And as I was pouring the food...
As its owner's frantically plugging and unplugging electronics, looking at the cat being like, is this good? Did I do the right thing? Is this what you wanted?
So, yeah. And as I poured the food...
It takes forever for the router to reboot, God damn it! But I'll do it for you!
And the cat was like watching me pour the food, and it had this look on its face that
It's
was...
like, I gotta reset the clock on the microwave now.
It was just like I could tell in its brain, it was saying, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Fuck you! Fuck you, you piece of shit!
Damn it.
You piece of shit! I knew that was happening! You tricked me!
Curse you, Dan Glaubitz.
Fuck you, you piece of shit! But... all right, so you've now endeared yourself to the audience.
There you go.
And we'll take it in turns. Maybe next week, Jesse or I will endear ourselves to the audience with a banal anecdote.
And it's totally true. It's totally true that I don't feed my cats ever.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the problem with making up stuff is that...
You think people will call the police?
Well, you were saying we should make up stuff so people don't call the police, but depending on what you make up, they might call the police.
Or you could make up half the stuff and then... You hide the fake stuff in between the real stuff, a la Garrick, to bring it back to DS9.
Especially when
Especially the lies.
They just eat all the spiders. You got a bunch of spiders. They just eat up.
No, I get silverfish sometimes.
Oh, they eat those too.
I fucking hate silverfish.
Yeah,
they're I see one every week.
That means you live in an old apartment.
Yeah, for our international, we have many.
Your apartment is over 50 years
listeners who
old.
live elsewhere in the United States or who live around the globe, and who you may be blessed to not have to deal with silverfish. Look them up on the internet and watch videos of them. Don't just look at the Wikipedia page.
Here's the thing.
Watch videos of those things scuttling around.
I bet Northern Europe doesn't have silverfish.
Here's the thing.
They don't have lions or like bears anymore.
Here's the thing. So silverfish are kind of like horseshoe crabs, where they look serious, like some serious shit, but they don't do anything.
I got no problem with horseshoe crabs.
Horseshoe crabs are tight.
No,
dude.
my point being though, is they both look like some crazy dinosaur craziness, but they're harmless. Silverfish.
It's because they're too small. If something's too big, it's not going to bother you because it's not going to scuttle up your pants.
No, but I'm saying that horseshoe crabs and silverfish are. That's why they're similar. Is not because of size. They're similar that they both look weird, but they're harmless. That's why I'm saying silverfish. I would much rather have silverfish than fucking cockroaches. We have no other bugs. Yeah. We don't get mice. We don't get cockroaches. We don't get any other bugs.
I'd rather have horseshoe crabs.
And
it would be hilarious to have a bunch of horseshoe crabs scuttling around in your basement.
And I see, I would rather...
Cats are like looking at them like,
I would rather
what am I supposed to do with
speaking
that?
of basements, I would rather have these silverfish than those cave crickets. Fuck those things.
Oh, I'm cool with that.
No, and so
they jump really
high. Point being, this is the whole point of everything we've said tonight, is that I see a silverfish maybe once a week. It's not a big deal, but they're gross. They're weird.
Wait, that's the point?
Yeah, that's the whole point of my existence.
See, the fucked up thing is it would have been better if there was a punchline on that one.
No, there wasn't. Jesse, real quick.
Are you kidding me?
How did you know? Are you kidding me? How did you know my building was more than... Do old buildings get silverfish? Do they just live there?
Yeah.
More so than cockroaches?
When I lived in Richmond.
Also, buildings where bad people live.
Well, it's like, well, no, look, there's
if you're a bad person, you're going to have silverfish.
I get you. That's funny. But, like, is it different than cockroaches and, like, bed bugs and whatever else?
Broomsticks? Bed bugs and broomsticks?
It seems like it, yeah. Like
actually, bed bugs come from, like, proximity and carbon dioxide. But
yeah,
but like
silverfish is more like it's an old structure, and they've...
All right, so we've aggravated our audience enough.
It's got arthropods.
It's got arthropods.
So I hope you've learned a little bit about my life. I do feed my cat.
Dan has
he lives in a perfectly nice apartment.
Audience engagement and endearment has gone up.
I didn't make up anything. I just exaggerated.
What's your Twitter handle? I would recommend people get him even more engaged on Twitter, where you can get this, or on our Discord server, where
it's called Dan Handle.
There's a link to that on our webpage or something, or on our social media if you want to join the Discord server.
I was just gonna say that I didn't make any of that story up. I exaggerated things. Like I only slightly starve my cats, not every 2 weeks, or about every week. Anyways,
it's better than overfeeding your cats.
Yeah, that's
all right.
So my Twitter is actually Dan_G_BITZ bits.
Dan_G_bits. So follow him if you don't already.
But I don't ever post on Twitter. I try, but I'm so bad.
But make him post.
If
Write
you
him
follow
messages.
him, he may post.
And
follows him, he will
and
come.
quote him in messages and say, "Yo, Dan_G_bits with a Z. Why don't you let
don't
us
you
know
underscore some
how?
fucking
Send us
shit?"
some pictures of those cats of yours.
I'm scared of
so we
Twitter.
can be more endeared to you."
Yeah, that's the way people endear themselves to their audience nowadays, isn't there?
Speaking of social media, you can get us at the on the It's Got Star Trek podcast, which does generally speak about Star Trek, at It's Got Star Trek on Twitter and Instagram. You can get us on Facebook.
That's like Twitter, but with different rules.
Yeah, YouTube. We put stuff up on YouTube.
Hell yeah.
You can go to the website, www.itsgotstartrek.com, which is a great place to go. And perhaps for no other reason than if you are interested in sorting the podcast episodes, because we jump around the Star Trek universe, right? But if you want to sort by series or movies or whatever, you can go to just click the button that says The Next Generation, and you'll only see the podcast episodes that are about that. So if you're keen to do that, well, go to the website and check it out.
In Spanish, it would be www.itsgotstartrek.com.
Yes.
Not the other word. I wasn't saying what you think I was saying.
So, did you say, what, puta?
Yeah, I was saying punto.
Punto.
We
Or
went to
punto?
high school
Dob-
with Spanish speakers.
W y punto. Punto.
You can also get us at feedback at itsgotstartrek.com, and you can send us just your standard, you guys are great, or you can send us questions.
You guys are great.
Or you can send us topic recommendations, or you can set us straight about something that we've gotten incorrect. Or
where do you get off?
Yeah, you can do whatever you like through the email or through the social
the bathroom
media.
usually.
Yeah, just really? Anyway, Dan will endear you next week with his discussion of his masturbatory habits.
I think I unendeared.
Where does Dan get off?
Yeah,
It wasn't the starving my cat
where
part.
do you get off? So we'll learn more about that next week. We don't
At
know
14th and Main.
We don't know which topic we'll be discussing next week. It will be related to Star Trek.
Yes.
Despite any segments that might
It
be
has.
more focused on banal anecdotes and audience endearment, but around that will be pure Star Trek talk on some topic, and just follow us on social media at It's Got Star Trek to figure out what's going to be coming next, or check out the website. But otherwise, I think that about does it for us this week. I think. Is that true? Is that a
Yeah.
fair point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I second that.
All right. So with that,
That was a good like end presentation, outro, like giving them the business about. We're not giving them the business, just telling us about our business, being like, you can do this, and we do this, and we do that.
Oh, thank you for the review. And that reminds me, Dan, we should tell the audience that it would be great if
Apple
you would
Podcasts.
rate and review us in whatever podcast player you use.
Podcasts.
A rating is great. A little review.
It's
if you
got
want to make it easy,
podcasts.
just be like, yeah, these guys are dope. You can just type, these guys are dope.
Apple Podcasts.
If you
and other
type
things.
these guys are dope into the
Just
internet,
5 stars.
we will pop up
These guys rock and roll.
because we're dope.
They're not like lame at all.
dope as fuck.
They don't starve their cats. You know, whatever works for you, right? So,
Whatever works.
what are you worried
trying to think,
about?
I don't think YouTube Music, do they don't have, you can't subscribe to podcasts to YouTube Music.
Well, you have Google Podcasts.
Yeah, I think you used to be able to with Google
and
Music,
you
but
can
they got rid
subscribe
of
to us.
that.
It would be
Apple
great.
Podcasts.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't even
Apple
got to. You don't got to.
Podcasts.
You don't got to like watch any of our YouTube videos, but you can go to It's Got Star Trek, subscribe to us, and then our subscriber count goes up, and that's good for our egos. Most people in these sort of performative business, like podcasts and other things, there is some component of ego construction involved, and it takes very little effort on your part to provide a lot of ego boost to us with the reviews and the ratings and the subscribings and the thises and the that's. You're telling your friends on the Twitter and being like, "Hey, these guys are great. You should check it out. You know, this is a
Tweet
great
Tower.
podcast." About 25% of the podcast they actually talked about Star Trek. It was great. I really like that ratio.
are you
The rest
giving
of the time, they were totally hilarious.
Are you giving a second outro? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, because you disrailed the other one.
Oh, disrailed? I disrobed?
Disrailed.
I disrobed all over it.
Disrailed is not a word, but I'll make it up. I'll coin that word because
Disraeli.
the English language is flexible. And we'll do the proper outro now, which is us saying
Outro.
good night, and us saying we'll talk to you again next week. via the podcast medium. So have a good one, and you'll hear from us about 7 days from now.
It's about the Nagus and Moogie.
What about them?
They're lovers.
No.
It's been going on for over a year.
No.
She's his secret financial advisor. She helps him run the entire Ferengi Alliance.
No.
Just stop saying